Hey everybody, welcome to Pop Culture Philosophers. I'm Rockin' Robbie Billups, and it's time for the weekly comic book review. That's right everybody, thanks for checking out the video. I am Rockin' Robbie Billups. This is the weekly comic book review. It's the show where I read a lot of comic books and I'll let you know what I thought about them, and we got a big week this week. So let's go ahead and get right into it, and we always start with the pick of the week, and this week's pick of the week, Man's Best, issue number 1 from Boom Studios. This is written by Pornsak Pijichot with artwork by Jesse Lonergan. Now, Jesse Lonergan is a fantastic artist. I actually got to meet him and hang out with him a little bit last year at Heroes Con. He was a super cool dude. I picked up some of his self-published work. I really dug it. I was very excited for this book, and it did not disappoint. The writing is really good too. Pornsak was the writer of Infidel, right? And Infidel was like a horror comic from years ago that blew me away. In fact, I've said it's hard to do jump scares in a comic, but Infidel did it, right? So I loved that book. He also worked on The Good Agent, so definitely a duo coming together to make a new creator-owned book over at Boom Studios that I was excited to check out. And Man's Best, like I said, did not disappoint. In fact, I'm also going to give it the cover of the week because I love the composition of this cover. I love that Kirby crackle. I love the psychedelic nature of the background, right? But the book itself, okay, so it's like described as Homeward Bound, but in space. That's a simple way to describe the book, but it's about so much more than that, right? But it's about these 3 animals, 1 cat, 2 dogs, and they're on a spaceship that's going off on a mission trying to find a new world for humanity to take over, right? And usually in these kind of stories, like they would send the animals out there alone to scope it out, kind of like in Primordial or something like that. That's not what's happening here. They're just there because they're one of the crew members' pets, right? But they have like, one of them has like a rocket on its back, one of them has like laser eyes, like they all have different technological aspects to them. But anyway, they're just pets on this ship looking for another world, and then all of a sudden there's a mystery that happens. The ship crashes and they are abandoned and alone, and they got to find out what's going on. I loved the book. The main highlight of the book, of course, is that artwork. Jesse Lonergan has a very fluid kind of style. His line is very wavy, but it really works for me, right? It never feels haphazard. It never feels frantic or thrown together. Everything is filled with excitement and energy, but also like a heart and a charm to it, and it matches the story absolutely perfectly. You know me, I'm a big animal lover, especially cats. The main character of this book is a cat. I loved it, but I also just love all of the cool space stuff that's going on here. It's a sci-fi book, it's a sci-fi animal book, but it really does. I was worried that this book would kind of come across like We 3 or Primordial or something like that, but it doesn't. It has its own unique identity and purpose and mission statement, and I absolutely loved it. So I thought it was the pick of the week, highlighted in particular by the artwork from Jesse Lonergan. Definitely check that out if you haven't already. I had a lot of fun with this book. All right, let's jump over to Marvel, where we've got Web of Spider-Man issue number 1. This is a one-shot comic book by a plethora of creatives, right? And what this is like an anthology book that's setting up this year's Spider-Man storylines. Not just in Amazing Spider-Man, but in Miles Morales Spider-Man, in Spider-Woman, in the Chasm-related stuff that's going to be coming up in Amazing Spider-Man, the Spectacular Spider-Men. There's even some Kane stuff in here, Scarlet Spider. So all of that is there. It's a bunch of just short little clips of stories that are setting up stories for the entirety of the Spider Universe, or the Spider-Verse, I guess we can say, over at Marvel. It was just alright. I really do like that Greg Capullo cover. Bring me back to the 90s. That's very McFarlane-esque, but strictly Capullo, and that's what I love about that cover. But the issue itself is just kind of alright. It's all over the place, and this thing is $7.99, and it's really only worth it if you are the biggest Spiderhead out there and you read every single Spider book. And if you only read like 2 of the Spider-Man books, you might get something out of like 8 to 10 pages in this book. I don't know. Nothing really grabbed me. Nothing really excited me. So it was so if you're the most hardcore Spiderhead, I guess pick it up, but it's just a one-shot. Speaking of one-shots, we have Star Wars Visions by Takashi Okazaki. Now, we've already had a couple of these Star Wars Visions book, one by Peach Momoko and the other one by Okazaki. Now, this, I do believe, was I think that he had done this as an anime short in the Star Wars Visions show, which I've never seen, but I hear that's really good. I do love his artwork. I think the artwork in this book is great. The story is just kind of okay. It does tell the origin of this Ronin character, how him and the droid come across each other. So that was interesting, and I liked it. In fact, I really liked the book for the sake of the art. The story didn't do super much to grab me, but definitely worth picking up if you like really gnarly manga artwork with lots of detail, lots of action and movement, and some real good excitement. So seriously, one of the better Star Wars books I've read in a while. Speaking of Star Wars books, we got Star Wars Jango Fett issue number 1. I don't know why I read this, honestly. Like, I don't like Marvel Star Wars books mostly. Now, this one's a little bit different because there's, you know, that was there for the art. The art in this one's a little stagnant, a little stale, doesn't really quite work for me. In fact, there's this moment that's supposed to be a big badass moment where Jango Fett is like going after a bounty and they're playing like some kind of card game, some kind of gambling game, and he blows everybody up as he's lifting off, and he's like, I don't gamble. But it's not exciting at all because I don't know what's going on with these legs, but they look very lifeless for having such, you know, like, from here down we're doing good, but the legs there, it just feels like, I don't know. So the art was kind of stagnant, didn't really work for me. It's Jango Fett, back in the prequel days, hunting a bounty. That's what it is. If you're a Jango Fett guy, I guess check it out. That's cool. Night Thrasher, issue number 2 is here. I had little hopes for this book. I was really excited for the first issue just because I'm a huge Night Thrasher fan. I was the perfect age when New Warriors came out, and I've always loved Night Thrasher. I know it's a ridiculous character, a ridiculous concept to a lot of people, but it just means something to me. I love this character, and I was really disappointed in the last book because of the revelation of who the big villain is, and it's Rage from the New Warriors, and I don't like the way that they've taken that character, and I also don't really like Dwayne's response to it. It feels out of character, a little bit in character, but mostly out of character, both Rage and Night Thrasher, and the Thrash is acting completely out of character at times in this book. Way too morose, way too mopey and broody. I know that there's Batman elements to Thrasher, but come on, it's not quite like that. Anyway, Silhouette is the only character in here that I think is accurately portrayed as far as the personality of the character goes. But, I mean, this is an alright issue. I do like some of the use of, like, digital screen tone here in the book. There are some moments where it works. It does have some really great color on it as well, but the artwork itself is maybe a little bit too sparse at times, and it doesn't really always excel, but it does get the job done, and it's decent. Night Thrasher gets a new costume in here. It's alright. It's very similar to the previous costume he had. I would prefer more of the old school approach. Skateboard on the back. Haha. Anyway, Night Thrasher. Who would I recommend this for? People like me who love Night Thrasher so much that they try to buy everything that Night Thrasher's in. And I only know one person like that, and it's me. So, there you go. Then we got Blade. Blade is here with issue number 9. The penultimate issue of this book. That's kind of sad to hear. It does say to be concluded. Check out the finale. Maybe it's just the story, but I need to look deeper and see if there's a solicitation after issue 10, because if not, what's wrong with Marvel? You got a Blade book that's working. You got a Blade book that people are talking about. People here on our, like, for instance, our monthly comic book review, we talk about Blade. We love this book, right? And it had some art, mostly color, like muddy color issues in the very beginning, but that's all been ironed out. The story's good. Brian Hill is writing a really great story that's engaging, that's compelling. The character of Blade is that stoic badass that we've come to love, especially from the Wesley Snipes movie. It's the best of all of what I love about Blade in a book, and I'm enjoying it. So of course Marvel's not going to allow it to continue. Why would they do that? That would be dumb. Anyway, Blade number 9 is here, and I really liked it. If 10 is the last issue, though, that blows 100%. Then we got The Vengeance of Moonight issue number 3. This is focused on Soldier. Soldier's this like vampire character that was saved by Moon Knight, and now that Moon Knight's dead, the Midnight Mission continues on with him and others, right? But this is an issue focusing on him, his regrets, his feeling of guilt and loss since the death of Mark Spector at the end of the last volume. No movement yet on who the new Moon Knight is, and that's the thing that's kind of just irking me a little bit here. I know that it's only 3 issues so far, but I feel like I wanted a little bit more movement onto the revelation of the mystery, or at least a deepening of that mystery. So far, these 3 issues of Vengeance of the Moon Knight, they feel like they're just kind of wasting a little bit of time until that revelation is coming, because that's really everything that we're really anticipating this book for. But also, Jed MacKay's playing with some vampire stuff going on here, and maybe that is tied in to his upcoming Blood Hunt event over at Marvel. But it was an alright issue of Moon Knight, but it has seemed to lost a little bit of that luster. Then we've got Fantastic Four issue number 18. And this is probably one of my favorite issues that Ryan North has done. I really enjoyed this issue. It's a little bit of a spotlight on Franklin Richards for part of it, but the other part of it is the Fantastic Four realizing that there's a bunch of invisible asteroids coming to Earth, and the way that they kind of have to put their powers together to solve it. Very interesting. I liked this story. I liked it mostly because of some of the movement into the Franklin Richards stuff. Franklin Richards has been depowered. That annoys me. It seems like writers come in and they got this character who's a kid who's like got ungodly powers, and they don't know what to do with it, so they always find a way to write it out. This one actually kind of references that and respects it a little bit, so I liked it. I liked this issue a lot. I thought it was solid. I still have some problems with the coloring on this book, but all in all, that was a pretty solid issue of FF. Then we got Spider-Boy issue number 5. Yes, 5 issues in, and I'm still reading Spider-Boy. I can't believe it either. I was not anticipating this book. I was annoyed when this character showed up and everybody flipped out, and I don't know why it annoyed me. It just annoyed me. It did, right? And I was like, whatever. And I didn't read any of that stuff. That's into Spider-Verse stuff or whatever that Dan Slott did. So I read Spider-Boy number 1 just being like, oh, I'll read it, talk a little bit of shit, then move on. I liked it, and I liked issue 2, and I liked issue 3, and I liked issue 4, and I liked issue 5. I like this book. I don't know what it is about this character. It's not necessarily the character, it's the fact that this book has a nice sense of fun and old school adventure that I like, and it moves at a nice pace. It's not taking itself super seriously, but at the same time, it's not ultra goofy to the point of annoyance. So Spider-Boy, 5 issues in, has been a winner for me, which is odd. Anyway, Wolverine Madripoor Knights issue number 2. I really liked the first issue of this. So this is a story written by Chris Claremont that goes back to issue 268 of Uncanny X-Men, that Jim Lee issue that we all know the cover of. I was about to point to my poster of it right there, but you can't see it. But Black Widow, Captain America, and Wolverine, right? It's like one of their things. So this book continues directly after that. So I like that aspect of it, and I thought the first issue was solid, and I had low expectations for it. So I guess my expectations were raised just a tinge for issue number 2, and I didn't really like it. It was okay, it was decent, but it didn't, I mean, it's playing with some stuff from that era, the Claremont era back in the day. And for instance, having just done the flip through of Marvel Comics Presents number 1, still looking for an issue number 2 if anybody's gonna line on one. But Marvel Comics Presents number 1, there's references to that. There's references to the early issues of that Wolverine solo series. Not the Frank Miller one, but the John Buscema one. So I liked all that about it, but for the most part, it just kind of fell flat. The dialogue was a little wonky. The pace was a little bit off. The art's a little bit, it's good at times, but also very stiff in other times. So it just didn't really quite work for me. So I don't know if I'm going to keep on with that one. And then once again, continuing this look at facsimiles of Amazing Spider-Man issues from 1984. We're talking about Secret Wars. They're re-releasing Secret Wars as facsimiles month to month throughout the year. They're doing the same thing with Amazing Spider-Man. So we get to, in real time almost, kind of have this illusion of re-experiencing this era. Now, aside from the fact that I don't necessarily like the way the color is reproduced on this new facsimile paper that they're using, I wish they would have done some newsprint like DC does. But Alas, I am still on board for this. I like this idea. I have been reading this and Secret Wars as they've been re-released as facsimiles and enjoying it. And I think that's a really cool way to dive into old comics. I've done that before, especially with stuff from the 60s, where I just act like, okay, well, how about Avengers? Let's just read one issue a month as if it was coming out new or something like that. And it's a way to not get bogged down. Sometimes in old comics, if you try to binge them, you can just kind of get bogged down on it because they are overly wordy, they are overly explainy, and it's not as sophisticated sometimes in the method of storytelling as far as the writing goes, but at the same time, there is something very true to the core of some of these old school comics, and I love this era of Spider-Man. This is some of the first Spider-Man stuff I read, so I definitely like it. But my only problem with this is, unlike the Secret Wars facsimiles, there are no foils for these. They did a foil for 252, which makes sense, but not for 253, not for 254, not for 255, not for the other ones. That blows. Aside from that, that's cool. I mean, I can forgive the gaudy, reproduced color on the inside if there's a foil cover. I don't know. I'll bitch and moan about modern-day comic book coloring, but if you slap a foil cover on that, I'm such a product of the 90s. All right, then we got over at DC the Ape-ril special. It's not April yet, but April's coming up, so it's nice they actually got this out before April. It's kind of like an April Fool's kind of thing, but it's playing on the idea that there's a lot of ape-centric stories in DC's past. And they've actually done these kind of events before, JL Ape and all that kind of stuff. So this was neat. I really did enjoy this book. The main story has like every like primate centric character in the DC universe is utilized. I mean, we're talking about Monsieur Mala, and we're talking about Silverback and Ultra Human Knight and Jackanapes and Titano. We're talking about Detective Chimp. We're talking about what's that dude? Sam Simeon. We're talking about Monkey Prince. They're all in here. Bibbo the Super Chimp. It's all in here. And the first story by John Layman and Carl Mostert, I believe, yeah, is really fun. I had so much fun with that book. Then there's a Detective Chimp story. It was all right. The artwork by Phil Hester was cool, though. And then Jin Lun Yang on a Monkey Prince story at the end that was pretty decent. But the main story in here actually works. So if it's a light week for you, which I don't think it's going to be a light week for many people, maybe check this out. It also has a scratch and sniff Hayden Sherman cover that smells like a banana. It smells like a Runts banana. It smells like those old school 80s scratch and sniff banana stickers. Y'all remember those? Pretty wow. Speaking of wow, look at Kubert right there on the back of that. I'm a big Kubert fan. I got a little Kubert right there. Right there. How cool. Got a little snake dude right there. Yeah, I love Kubert. Yeah, I'm pretty good at it too. What's your highest score on Kubert? Oh, also, Fantastic Four has a reference to Missile Command, one of my favorite Atari games of all time. Now, of course, it was, you know, in arcade. I'm not talking about the arcade version. I've played that one before. It's a little bit different. But the 2600, Atari 2600, that's probably like my first favorite game, that and Pitfall. Anyway, also from DC, we have Batman, Superman, World's Finest, issue number 25. Today is Tangent Day, right? So anyway, Batman, Superman, World's Finest, issue number 25. Big, extravagant, extra-sized issue. It is telling us the new version of how Lex Luthor and Joker first teamed up. And it's all right. It's okay. You got Steve Pugh on the artwork. I believe, yeah, it's Steve Pugh. The artwork's okay. The story's decent enough, but I've seen this kind of thing done a little bit better. In fact, it was done really immensely well in the Batman Superman World's Finest animated movie, which was actually 3 episodes of the Superman animated series that they put together as a movie. First meeting of Batman and Superman. The best version of that I've ever seen, because I didn't read it, because it's an animated movie. But also the best meeting of the first team up between Joker and Lex Luthor resides in that. So I always compare these kind of retellings of the first meetings between the World's Finest or the World's Finest villains. I always kind of compare that to that miniseries, which is kind of unfair, I guess. But the backup story in here is the prelude to this Impossible story that Dan Mora is back on the artwork for, and it's about something that's so dangerous, it's got Mxyzptlk running to Earth, scared, begging for help from Superman and Batman, and Batmite's there too, so I liked that bit, but the main story was just kind of okay. There's a William Shatner variant on that, just so you know, if you're interested. Green Lantern War Journal, issue number 7. Philip Kennedy Johnson just keeps getting better and better at this title. His concentration on the humanity of John Stewart, his familial kind of connections and family to his mother, being away from him, and kind of playing on the idea of a soldier, but focused on the idea of a soldier who's away from home, who needs to be at home, but also needs to be doing exactly what they're doing, soldiering for the great cause. Really playing with things involving the Starheart and other bits of Green Lantern mythology. Jeremy Adams and Philip Kennedy Johnson are both doing a great job right now of playing with that lore and mythos for the Green Lantern Corps without being super leany into what Jeff Johns did or set up, which most people have done since. Doesn't feel derivative, it feels unique, it feels different, it feels exciting, and that is a really solid comic. Then we got Wonder Woman issue number 7. Tom King, guest artist here. Who's the guest artist? It's probably not going to reveal it till the end. The guest artist on this book is, I have no idea. Oh, Gilliam March, duh. It's Gilliam March, but the inking, and I guess he inked himself, but there's something about it that's just not quite working for me. I do like Gilliam March's work, but there's something off here. Maybe it's just it's a little rushed or something. I don't know. I have been coming around on Tom King's Wonder Woman. I've been starting to like it, actually. I've been starting to enjoy it, right? I did not like issue number 7. So this is kind of like an intermission, if you will. It's a self-contained story that takes place before the events of issue 5 or right after the events of issue 5, but it's Wonder Woman and Superman going to like this super galactic mall trying to find Batman a birthday present, and it is overly dumb. And I know that he's making references to a lot of things, including Hitchhiker's Guide. I know that Tom King's just trying to have some fun with this in the midst of this serious book, but it is just annoying to me. I did not like this one at all. Like, it was just really obnoxious. That's just me, though. What did you think if you read it? If you've been liking Wonder Woman by Tom King, what'd you think about that issue? What'd you think? Is it the Dark Knight, you know, Wonder Woman's never had her Dark Knight Returns, so let's do something stupid like that. Anyway, moving on. We got Titans here with issue number 9. We're continuing the big revelation from Beast World, and I don't want to spoil it yet, but why not? The idea that Raven has been replaced by, like, the evil version of her, right? So there's all this stuff going on. The Titans don't know it. They're setting all that up. They're playing with the Amanda Waller consolidation of power since Beast World. She is talking to Trigon. Maybe Trigon wants to have some kind of some kind of, what's the word? Where you team up. Some kind of deal or something like that. Man, I am tripping tonight. But anyway, Titans number 9, it's all right. Now that Beast World's come and gone, this book needs to find its identity a little bit. Now, it is plugged in heavily to what's coming up for the Dawn of the DC with the Absolute Power, and I'm sure that this is leading into that. But the book does take too much time just kind of sitting at things, and we need to move some things forward just a little bit, but at the same time, it's still a decent book. Then we got Nightwing, issue 112. This wraps up this nice little team up with Batman, where this kid, his parents have been murdered. Batman and Nightwing are on the mystery. It has a connection and a reflection, I should say, of their relationship and their past together. Pretty decent, though. I did like it. The artwork's solid. The story's good, the color pops, everything about it artistically really soars, and the story itself had a very nice, satisfying conclusion that I did like, as well as kind of setting up what will be the final story arc for Tom Taylor's Nightwing. Then we got Superman here with issue number 12. This wraps up basically the first year of this Superman book, this whole Lex Luthor Revenge Squad. We get a little bit more information about what happened in the past between Lex Luthor and these new villains that we've been introduced to, why there's so much bad blood there. Superman finally embraces the super core thing, and I really did like it. I enjoyed it a lot. The art wasn't as good as I want this book to be. We need one of the best artists out there on this book. That's what you need to do. This is Superman. I get that Batman, that's like your flagship stuff, but man, put some really solid art on Superman and watch this story soar, because Josh Williamson knows what he's doing. He knows how to tie into the familiarity of a Superman story, as well as making it new and dynamic and fresh, but some really top-notch, top-level art would really set this book off, like, over the top, for me, 100%. Then we got Justice Society of America number 9. Finally, this book keeps slipping behind more and more in the schedule, but that's fine because it's Jeff Johns doing what Jeff Johns does, especially when it comes to the JSA, and it's awesome. The sad thing is that it will be ending soon, and I don't know what's going to be happening because Jeff Johns is going to be very, very busy over at Ghost Machine running that whole show, right? But this one's really cool, basically playing around with the idea that the Justice Society now, and as well as having to mount up forces for what the danger is coming and having some big revelations in this issue, they're also having to deal with all these new sidekicks that have come in since the Golden Age. This Justice Society, new Golden Age stuff has been really good. The only problem is the delay in shipments, the delay in whatever's causing this book to be late is causing the whole launch of it to kind of just lose a lot of momentum. And I do fear that once those new Golden Age miniseries wrap up and this wraps up, that I don't know what DC's going to do with it, but I hope they do something with it. Then we've got Justice League versus Godzilla versus Kong, issue number 6, the penultimate issue, 6 of 7. There's one more issue, and I do think that this book, as much as I am enjoying it, I do think it's overstayed its welcome just a little bit. Just a little bit. There hasn't been so much movement. Now, there are little things that happen that do move the story along. There's some big moments in here, but I really do feel like the last 3 issues could have been truncated down, told in a more streamlined way that would have it have a little bit more excitement and impact, right? That being said, I do like the book. I like the events of the book. I like how they're taking everything very seriously, but at the same time just delivering what we want to see. But sometimes the book takes so long and it's overstaying its welcome and overextending things so much that it's not giving us what we want to see because they're just waiting and waiting to give us what we want to see. So I like the book, but it's just all right. Then we got Batman 89 Echoes issue number 2. How long ago was issue number 1? Feels like forever ago. In fact, I'm reading this, I'm confused. I have no idea what's going on. I remember liking the first issue of this, and it's, what if the Tim Burton Batman world continued on after Batman Returns without Forever or Robin getting in its way, and they did Batman 89, which is kind of based on some of the ideas that Tim Burton could have possibly done for his next Batman movie, and now this one's playing with Scarecrow and Harley Quinn, which that was the rumored Batman triumphant movie that was going to take place after Batman and Robin, so it's an interesting take on those characters. But the book took so long to come out that I'm reading it and I'm so disconnected from it, and it's just all right. And the artwork maybe leaning too much into the likeness and not enough into the dynamic qualities of what Joe Quinones can do. So it's all right. I don't know. I might just drop out of this one after that because especially if it's going to be another 2-3 months in between issues. But then we got John Constantine, Hellblazer, Dead in America, issue number 3. Feels like issue 2 of this just came out not too long ago, but I loved issue number 3. The exploration of Constantine in America, but telling the story where Constantine's dead and he's trying to finagle his way into possibly finding life again, but at the same time, at least if this is his last mission, to do it honorably and actually take care of the people in his life and not just lead them to death and destruction, which is kind of his MO. So it's got a lot of hardcore references to the old school Vertigo stuff, which I like. It's got Swamp Thing in it, which I like. It's got connections to the Sandman stuff, which I love. But what I really love about this book is kind of just like the Brian Azzarello run. And Brian Azzarello did already do this, where he sent Constantine to America, but he was alone. It wasn't all this other baggage associated with him. So it's a different story, but some of the same ideas, meaning Constantine and Hellblazer where Constantine in America gives Hellblazer the opportunity from a British or a Constantine or outsider perspective to dissect some of America, right, from outside eyes. That's what's going on here, in particular about all the different nuances of situations in Texas politically over the last few years. I liked it. I loved the artwork. Very cool, very gnarly, very Vertigo, and very scary. I liked that a lot. Let's jump over to Image. And from Image, we have Cobra Commander, issue number 3, written by Joshua Williamson, with artwork by Andre Milana. Man, I love this book. Love it so much. I considered this for the pick of the week. In fact, this might be the runner-up. This was awesome. So I love this approach to Cobra Commander. First of all, Josh Williamson is playing with the Cobra Law stuff, and he's playing with it incredibly well. Probably better than that TV show and early movie ever did. And I love this personification of Cobra Commander. He's not a coward. He is not somebody who's just going to whine and run away. He is legitimately a threat, physically and mentally. Because what happens in this issue is that the Dreadnoks capture Cobra Commander. They are torturing this dude, or trying to torture him, but the entire time, Cobra Commander's just effing with everybody. Just like manipulating everybody, causing turmoil, causing commotion. There's really great stuff going on. You know how I'm loving the Energon books right now, and I love that they each got their own distinctive style. Cobra Commander's got a very visceral, raw, rippy, fleshy kind of approach to it, artistically and with the story. I love the art. There's some big revelations here. There's some really great moments. It is bloody. It's not holding anything back. And it is wild and awesome because of it. Cobra Commander number 3. That shit's awesome. All right, then we got Bone Orchard Mythos Tenement, issue number 10. This is the finale to the latest chapter of the Bone Orchard Mythos, written by Jeff Lemire with artwork by Andrea Sorrentino. Artwork is amazing. Great don't want to show you those pages. Great composition, truly freaky, scary, creepy stuff that I absolutely adore and am mesmerized with, right? I love the art, and it's an incredibly satisfying conclusion to this arc. Now, Bone Orchard Mythos, so far, each story, The Passageway, 10,000 Black Feathers, they've all felt small in scale and just like little steps to get us to where we're supposed to go. Tenement feels like they were taking giant leaps to get us to where we were going to go. It starts off small in scale, keeps widening and enlarging that scope, and now it just erupts into an incredibly satisfying and terrifying ending that sets up what's to come. Tenement number 10. That was awesome. That was really cool. Then we got Spawn 351, the debut of Brett Booth as the new ongoing Spawn artist, and it's pretty solid. It's not as good, I think, as his work has been over at Gunslinger Spawn, but it does work for me. I do like it. So this is post-Spawn 350. What's happened is there's a new ruler of Hell, and all of the Hell Spawns have lost their powers, including Al. And now the vampires are trying to make a push for power now that there's this vacuum on Earth, because everybody who's powered by heaven or hell has been depowered. Not just hell spawns, angels and demons and stuff like that, right? So the vampires are making their move, and even without his powers, Spawn don't give an F. He is coming straight at them. He's coming for everything they got, and there's an ending here that's very like, what? But you know it's not that, but it's something else that's still similar to that, but not quite that. That's going to be cool. That will make more sense after you read it. All right, Scorched is here with issue number 27. We got Segovia, my bad, who was the artist on Spawn. No, that was Barberi. Segovia was the artist on... Oh, he's been the artist on this book. So not a new artist. New ruler, new world. New ruler, new artist, new world. All right, so this is the same artist, but I liked this book a lot. I like the post-Spawn 350 setup for the Scorched. The agency is back, and there's the return of some familiar faces by the end of this that really did excite me, but it's the same thing as what's going on in Spawn. She-Spawn, Medieval Spawn, all of these other Spawns, they have lost their powers, but they're still out there fighting the good fight. They're actively going up against the agency right now. Big revelatory surprise at the end here that I like. Both of them had really nice surprises at the end that have ties to old school stuff. And I like that. I like it when we're tying into the old school stuff, because that's what I'm really mostly connected with. There was one more thing I want to say. Oh, and Haunt. Haunt's in here, and Haunt still has his powers, so that's pretty cool. All right, then we got the return of Something Epic, issue number 8, starting a whole new story. And let me tell you something. If you never read Something Epic, you can start right here. It is incredibly new reader friendly. It jumps right into a new story set in this world that's been built up for 7 issues, but focusing on a different character. We're getting introduced to her take on this world, and even if you just have no clue about Something Epic 1 through 7, I think you can jump right in here and really enjoy it. And I thought this was the best issue of Something Epic yet. I really did. I thought there was a lot of great ideas in issues 1 through 7, and the execution was solid for the most part, particularly on the artwork. The artwork was amazing. And I love how it's like playing with ideas of imagination. It's playing with ideas of truth versus fiction and what is reality. But at the same time, it's very grounded in a film noir detective story type thing is what's going on here. I think it's a great direction to take this book in. It soars. I loved it. Best issue of something epic yet, and incredibly new reader friendly. So definitely check that out. Simon Kudronsky's doing a great job there. Dutch, issue number 2. Joe Casey, Simon Gain, Francisco Segala. I love this book. Now, maybe it won't be for everybody. Some people look at this artwork and they don't like it. I freaking love it. It's got this sense of energy. It's got this sense of explosive movement and momentum and just angular kind of, it's sharp. You know what I'm saying? It's got these great this angular texture to it, and it's awesome. It's basically Gran Torino meets Youngblood, right? So Youngblood, you know, those characters can't be used anymore, but Chap Yape was the one who created Dutch. So Joe Casey gets to play around, and so he's saying, okay, so let's say Youngblood was actually a different team, different name, maybe different characters, but it's basically still the same story. And what if now, 30 years later, Dutch is an old man just trying to live off on his own, but the past comes back for him, and now he has to go out on one more mission to try to finally end cyber tech, is what they're calling it here. I love this book. I think it's great. I love the personification, or I should say, I love the character motivation of Dutch. I love the way that Dutch is realized in personality by Joe Casey. I love the writing. The narration really works, and the artwork really pops for me. Now, you could also expect to have some kind of like extreme 90s style to this. You're not getting that as far as the line work goes, but you are getting that as far as the dynamic quality of the layouts and the composition and the movement of the action and the story. I love it. Love it, love it, love it. Only one more issue, but of course it's setting up Blood Squad 7. Hey y'all, I've read the first 2 issues of Blood Squad 7, and it's awesome. So, Youngblood fans, rejoice. We finally got a revival, even though it's not technically Youngblood, but should be. Anyway, the Infernals is here with issue number 2. I really liked issue number 1. It's about the Antichrist, but the Antichrist, he's gotten old and he's about to die, so he's got to pass on the torch to one of his children to be the next personification of evil in the world and be the next Antichrist. Cool setup, cool first issue. Really boring and dull second issue that didn't really work for me. The art starts getting a bit stiff. It's fine. Like, I like the coloring. I like some of the texture that's in the artwork, but it just wasn't exciting. It didn't really do anything for me, and I was really kind of bummed out by that because I really did enjoy issue number 1, but issue number 2, I've completely checked out on. Like, just was not vibing with that one. Holy Roller, though, is keeping me entertained 5 issues in. This is 5 issues in on Holy Roller, written by Andy Samberg, Rick Remender, Joe Troman, with artwork by Roland Boschke. I really like the artwork. I really like the sense of fun in this book. It is dealing with, it's about this dude, and so it's about this dude whose dad was a bowler. He leaves, he comes back. There's like this like new neo-Nazi movement in his town. Him and his father, they're Jewish, so they're targeted. He's fighting back. He's embracing the legacy of bowling in his family, and he is now the Holy Roller. And he just beats the hell up out of neo-Nazis with a bowling ball. It's great. It's really great. It's funny. It's got charm to it. It feels like this is a perfect vehicle for Andy Samberg. I would love to see this in a movie or TV show. I'd love to see them try to realize this because Holy Roller has been entertaining as hell. Then we got Dawnrunner, issue number 1, a new one from Dark Horse Comics, written by Ron V with amazing artwork from Evan Cagle. The artwork has so much like manga influence texture and like density in the line work, but also the sense of like open space and being very clear. And this is mechs versus kaiju. Lots of people do this kind of story. It's Pacific Rim. It's Neon Genesis Evangelion. It's got bits of that. It's got bits of this. But it's all Rom V and Evan Cagle. The artwork is amazing. The story is really cool. There's a twist at the end that you're like, I don't really quite get what's going on there, but you're kind of taking this familiar idea, Rom, and you're twisting it a little bit towards the end here to make it distinguish itself from everything that's come before. This could come across as been there, done that, but in fact, it comes across as haven't been there, want to do that. That's the best review surely I've ever done of a Rom V book. I loved it. If you like kaiju, mech warrior type stuff, check that one out. Then we got Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees, issue number 4. Big revelations in the last issue. We now follow that up. This is such a great issue. One of my favorite things about it, about this book as a whole, is that it's a nice dichotomy. Excuse me. It's a nice dichotomy that it's about like animal people that kind of look cutesy and looks like it's a children's storybook, but it's got a very like gnarly, dark kind of story about serial killers. I love that. And my favorite thing is, even if you took out the fact that they're all cute animals, the story would still work because it's incredibly well written. The pace, the structure, the dialogue, the flow, everything about it, and the artwork. The artwork provides texture while maintaining the charm visually, but also the dreadful realness and weight of what's actually going on in the story. Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees continues to excel at being a fantastic comic. The Displaced issue number 2 is here from Boom Studios. This one, it was pretty solid. The first issue was really cool. Ed Brisson and Luca Casalanguida. Basically, this town in Canada just disappears, right? And all the people disappear. Nobody remembers them, right? But some residents of this town were right outside the boundary of the town. They've survived. Now everybody's starting to forget them. And messed up things are happening to them. So it took a little bit for issue 2 to really get rolling, but once it did capture my attention. It entertained me all the way through. It's an interesting premise. These characters are decent enough and they're all distinct enough that it works, and I really look forward to seeing where we're going to go with this book. But 2 issues in, and I'm liking The Displaced. Then we got Once Upon a Time at the End of the World with issue number 13. Only 2 more issues of this, but I have loved it. A 3-act story. We are now in the 3rd act about love, about a relationship at the end of the world. The first arc was all about these 2 characters meeting and falling in love. The second arc was about them building a life together and that life falling apart, and the third one is about 2 bitter old people who still love each other, who refuse to accept the fact that they love each other, and even when the world is ending and everything's at its just utmost despair, they still can't find it within themselves to forgive themselves and each other for what's going on. But there's a lot of nuance there. Nick Dragata's artwork is amazing. Really solid stuff in this book. I love it, and I think this is an undersung and underappreciated Jason Aaron book. Then we got Lotus Land, issue number 5 here from Darcy Van Polgeest. First of all, Darcy Van Polgeest just announced the prequel to Little Bird is finally coming out in June, written by him with artwork by Ian Bertram. I didn't do a wrap-up this week because I just had a lot going on, but I wanted to talk about that. I might mention it on the wrap-up this week. Very excited for that. But this has been a nice, like, futuristic neo-noir detective story that, as I'm reading it, I'm enjoying it. I like the art. But when I do read it, I do feel disconnected from everything. Now, I did go back and reread issues 1 through 3 at one point before issue 4. Or maybe it was 1 and 2 and then 3 the same night. It works so much better. So this is definitely going to read so much more profoundly when it's all completed and it's all done and you get to read it in one sitting. Chapter to chapter, though, it doesn't do enough to stand out, to really distinguish itself when the next issue comes out, that it's like super fresh in my mind. But I do like it. I do like the vibe and I like the tone. Then we got the Nacelleverse, issue number 0. Oni Press has done something weird. And they've worked out deals to like have Nacelleverse books. So there's going to be a RoboForce comics. There's going to be a Biker Mice from Mars comic. There's going to be a Sectars comic, Power Lords, and the Great Garlu. I know all of these properties but the Garlu one. So I don't know if that's like new or if that's like from something. Anyway, I was really interested, like, how are you doing a connected universe with all of these properties? But it actually works. It's basically the story of this one dude, this alien dude, whose planet's been destroyed, and he's trying to find a new home. And on his journey, he comes across the world of the Power Lords. So there's a little setup for them. Comes across the world of the Sectars. Sets that up. He comes across Mars, and it's the Biker Mice from Mars. Sets that up. He gets to Earth, and it's RoboForce. So I liked the structure. I enjoyed this book, and if you're a fan of any of those properties, definitely check it out. Now, these are not properties that are as well known and respected as, say, Transformers or G.I. Joe or Thundercats or Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, but I mean, why not? I had Power Lord toys when I was a kid. I like Biker Mice from Mars, so heck yeah, let's jump in. I like that. And it's all just set up. They're like 3-issue series that are coming out. Yeah, Robo Forces first, then Biker Mice, and then Sectars, and then Power Lords, and all that's like over just like a year. So, I don't know, I liked it. If you like any of those properties, maybe check that out. Alright, then from Floating World Comics, we have Vengeance is for the Living. This is 100% your smell of the week. I did not do a smell of the week last week because I was congested. I've had a lot of allergy things going on, and I could not smell any of my comics last week. I had a comment, I don't remember who it was, but they said, no smell of the week. I couldn't smell any of the comics last week. This one I can't help but smell. It is just, magnifique. That smells like what comics should. What is this book, though? This book is for a very specific group of people, and I am definitely a part of that group. Amateurish, independent comics that have balls, that want to tell a wild story, that don't care if it looks pristine or if it's technically sound. This book is very amateurish. It is very rough. It is very much not necessarily a good book, but it's kind of got that like B-movie, C-movie kind of vibe. I love the coloring in it. I love the paper. I love that smell. I love the violence. I love the insane nature of it. It's about this woman whose kids were murdered, and now her husband's missing, and now she goes on a path of vengeance. I liked it. I liked it a lot. Most people are not going to like this book, but if you like super gnarly, independent, do-it-yourself, amateurish books, check this one out. If you like that old school smell, definitely check that out. Vengeance for the Living. It's like a quarterly book. It is expensive. It's $8. There's a lot of pages to it, and I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. It's bloody. It's gory. It's not as good as say something like from Benjamin Marra, but it is on the path that Benjamin Marra has like trailblazed for years. So there you go. All right, then we got Bloodshot Unleashed Reloaded, issue number 1. I wasn't going to read this, but then I did notice Dennis Camp's on it. He's not on the next issue. Dennis Camp did the last Bloodshot series, Bloodshot Unleashed. Loved it, thought it was amazing. He did do this first issue, and I really loved it, right? So even if the next issue, which is written by somebody else, and we'll see when that comes out if I like it or not, but even if I don't, I love this as just the next step from Bloodshot Unleashed. Like Bloodshot Unleashed, 4-issue series by Dennis Camp, each self-contained stories, all part of a larger narrative that built but didn't really necessarily go somewhere, really works here, right? Like, I like this story, and Dennis Camp is playing with a little bit of, like, meta commentary on Bloodshot, his history, his past, relaunches, reboots, comics in general, story in general. Dennis Camp's got some, things to say, and I really appreciated it here in the pages of Bloodshot Unleashed Reloaded, issue number 1. Also super gory and violent, so that's always cool. Elvir Meets HP Lovecraft, issue number 2. Great photo cover right there. I love me some Elvira. I like Lovecraft stories. This is right up my alley. Elvira has been some of my favorite licensed work from Dynamite. Really stellar stuff by David Avallone and, of course, Cassandra Peterson, who does have the final approval. But in this, she is meeting up with H.P. Lovecraft, the ghost of H.P. Lovecraft. She's teaming up to find the true, real copy of the Necronomicon to prevent some kind of something. It's very mysterious, so it's probably not going to be good when it does happen. But it's fun. It's tongue-in-cheek. It is playing with the historical figure of Lovecraft, what we know about Lovecraft, making fun of it, but at the same time kind of honoring some of the insane genius of some of those stories. So I think that's cool. Army of Darkness Forever is here with issue number 6. Tony Fleece is doing a great job with this book. It is a direct sequel to Army of Darkness that plays with the original ending as well as playing with the theatrical ending, right? And it's also telling us the third story of what continues on in the Middle Ages. But it's all kind of coming together. It really comes together here at the end of the 6th issue. We've had 2 talks with Tony recently where we talk about this book in particular. Tony's a great dude. He's a great storyteller. He's got lots of cool stuff coming out. Local Man's about to be returning. Uncanny Valley is amazing. Feral is coming out. So you're going to want to check this book out. But if you're an Army of Darkness fan, you're going to want to check those books out. But if you're an Army of Darkness fan, this is a must-read. And so far, I am daring to say it's my favorite Army of Darkness comic I've ever read. Then we have Bristlemouth, A Cove Horror, issue number 1 from IPI Comics. I was excited to check this out. There was parts of the art that I did like, elements of it. I like that black and white, super gritty, very texturally, charcoaly kind of thing. But storytelling-wise, it gets a little unclear in the artwork. It gets a little muddy. And as far as the script goes, it just doesn't do much for me. I don't know. It's about these dudes who are going to this, like, cove for, like, camping or something. And I don't know, there's something evil going on there. It just did not work for me. I had high hopes for it, but I was much more impressed with Vengeance is for the Living. And then I want to show off this awesome giant foil facsimile that DC did of the limited collector's edition presents Batman. This is Neil Adams, Denny O'Neil, Ra's al Ghul, Batman stuff from the 70s, reproduced on glorious newsprint in the giant treasury size that it was reprinted in. So I know that if you want to get this Neil Adams stuff, it can be kind of pricey because either you're going to find the original issues, which are pricey, or you're going to have to find these hardcovers, which can be pricey. So even though there is a non-foil version of this for $15, this is a $20 foil one, but I'm telling you, man, it is worth it. This is some really great Batman comics. This is Neil Adams, and you get to see it big and blown up and a great foil. Look at that wraparound cover. So heck yeah, give me. I could dig with more facsimiles. Like, can we do the Muhammad Ali one and do that foil cover? That would be dope. So anyway, there you go. And so to recap, Bristlemouth did not work for me. Army of Darkness, that's the best Army of Darkness book I've ever read. Elvira Meets HP Lovecraft, so much fun. Bloodshot Unleashed Reloaded. Dennis Camp with a lot of meta commentary on this industry and story as a whole. Vengeance is for the Living. Great, gnarly, amateurish, self-done comics that are not afraid to be violent and smell amazing. All right, the Nacelleverse was actually way better than I was anticipating. Lotus Land will read better in trade, but I'm still enjoying it. Once Upon a Time at the End of the World might be one of the best Jason Aaron books I've ever read, and hardly anybody talks about it. The Displaced continues to entertain after 2 issues. Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees continues to excel at issue number 4. Dawnrunner, Mechs vs. Kaiju by way of Ram V, so you know it's a little bit different, but still everything that you're looking for. The Holy Roller is better than it deserves to be. Infernals was very weak at issue number 2, kind of lost me. Dutch rocks. This book rocks. Something Epic, best issue of this series yet. Really solid stuff there. Scorched and Spawn setting new directions post 350. I really like the new direction for Scorched and the ending. This is very intriguing as well. Then we got Tenement with a very satisfying and creepy and chilling conclusion, and probably the most elaborate bit of the Bone Orchard mythos so far. Cobra Commander is nasty and mean and visceral, and I'm here for it. Hellblazer, Dead in America. Vertigo, Hellblazer. What more can you want? Batman 89 Echoes starting to lose me. Justice League versus Godzilla versus Kong starting to overstay its welcome just a little bit. Justice Society of America is too late, but at the same time, I don't care. It's still good. Superman wraps up the whole first years of story, sets up what's next and what's to come, but some better art would really set that book above and beyond. Nightwing and Titans. Tom Taylor doing what Tom Taylor does, which is make some solid comic books. Then Wonder Woman number 7 just annoyed the hell out of me. Green Lantern War Journal. This book keeps getting better, like for real. Batman Superman World's Finest, first meeting between Joker and Lex Luthor. Yeah, we've seen it done better, but Dan Mora on the prelude at the end here to the new Impossible story, that was awesome. The April special was fun. I know. It was. Facsimile of Amazing Spider-Man 254, continuing that year of Spider-Man with the black costume. Wolverine, Madripoor Knights, issue number 2, lost me a little bit. Spider-Boy, 5 issues in, I'm still loving it. Fantastic Four, number 18, best issue of Ryan North's Fantastic Four so far. Vengeance of the Moonight, number 3 is kind of, it's not losing me, but I want some movement. Blade number 9 might be the penultimate issue. I hope not. Shame on Marvel if they're publishing a Night Thrasher book and not going to continue on the book like Blade that really works. Night Thrasher doesn't necessarily work for me, but it also does. Jango Fett did not work for me. So, like, if Robbie is to Night Thrasher like you are to Jango Fett, yeah, go for it. Star Wars Visions, Takashi, Okazaki, really great artwork there, pretty solid stuff. Web of Spider-Man, kind of a waste of money, honestly, unless you pick up every single Spider-Man book and you just want some teases to what's coming up. But Man's Best, issue number 1. Great artwork from Jesse Lonergan. Really great story. I liked it. That was the pick of the week. What are you reading? What are you digging? What are you thinking? Let us know in the comments down below. Thank you so much for checking out this video. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. And join us over at patreon.com/PCP if you want to help support the channel. Also, my comic book flip through, top down, bottoms up, whatever we're calling it. I think we're calling it top down, bottoms up unofficially, so whatever. But I'm flipping through comics. We released one last week, Marvel Comics Presents. I mentioned it here on the channel, and I saw a lot of movement of people going from the one video into the other to check it out. I got a lot of great comments, so thank you so much. You've encouraged me to keep going, and today we released Prophet #1 by Rob Liefeld and Dan Panosian. So join us and go through the Extreme Studios days from 1993. That video is live on the channel right now. I would really appreciate it if you checked it out and dropped a comment. Let me know what you thought about it. So anyway, thank you all so much. I've been Rockin' Robbie Billups. Thanks for rocking with us. Keep on reading. Station. Pop, pop, boom!